Hello and good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today, focusing on Windows Virtual Desktop with VMware. So we are joined here by Scott Lindsay from VMware and Andy McIntyre from VMware, who are going to be presenting the webinar for you.
Thanks, Amy. Good afternoon. My name is Scott Lindsay. I look after business development for Northern Europe for our desktop products. With me, I've got Andy, who's coming in from the US. Andy.
Hello, everyone. So happy to be joining this webinar. So in terms of introduction, I am responsible for the global business development effort for our Horizon Cloud on Azure solution, which extends Windows Virtual Desktop capability. Prior to joining VMware, I was with Microsoft for 3.5 years as a Azure specialist. So very familiar with Microsoft as well as Azure. So let's lead into the agenda. So some of the things we want to talk with you today about is give you a little bit of background around the Microsoft VMware partnership. So I'll talk about that briefly. We'll go into Microsoft Virtual Desktop 101. So we're going to keep it relatively high level. I'll talk about the capabilities, high level architecture. And then Scott will talk to you about our Horizon Cloud on Azure solution. So basically how we're extending those capabilities and the benefits and the value that we're bringing to our customers around that. And then we'll wrap it up with our better together story. You know, why is this, exciting for our customers, et cetera. So in terms of background, Microsoft and VMware and Dell announced a strategic partnership back in April, May of last year. Since then, we have been working closely with Microsoft from different aspects, both from a product development perspective. So our product teams are closely aligned and closely working together with one another. We are working together with Microsoft from a field sales perspective. So some of our customers are going to start seeing both VMware and Microsoft jointly participating in meetings and discussions, which I think what we've seen so far is very exciting for our customers because of the value that they're going to be experiencing from the partnership. So we're really excited about the partnership that we have forged with Microsoft. So let's move on to the next slide. So as you may well know, the economics of virtualization can address a range of business needs. Went too far? There we go. Oh, there we go. So from security and regulation, flexible workforce, and specialized workload needs. So very specific use case scenarios where not only virtualization, but also the economics of cloud consumption, leveraging a public cloud service in these scenarios can really bring not only value to our customers, but also the economics really make sense. And as we go through the presentation, you'll start seeing some of the economical situations where you can benefit, as a customer. So next slide. So when we look at WVD, the Windows Virtual Desktop, so there's different pillars. Obviously, it is built on Azure, which is Microsoft's public cloud service. It is obviously a standardized solution. It's global. And Microsoft, at the heart of Microsoft's Azure solution is security. So security is built into it, from the get-go. So all the compliance and all the security metrics from monitoring, security, et cetera, is all built into the heart of it. When you look at user experience, you're able to access a Windows Virtual Desktop from multiple devices, from your mobile phone, from a tablet, and from a normal laptop. Enhanced security, I can't stress this enough. Security, again, is built into the heart of every product and service that Microsoft is releasing into the cloud, Windows Virtual Desktop being one of those. And then simplifies management, being able to manage your environment from a single pane of glass, right? So going to the portal and being able to manage your deployment from that single pane of glass. When you look at the economics, again, we'll go deeper into this. Specific use cases really lend itself to cutting your costs when it comes to standing up a virtual a VDI environment, on-prem versus the cloud. And then as you look at WVD and you look at those capabilities that the platform will bring to your organization, several customers are now looking at, okay, how can now we extend those capabilities and get additional value from our VDI environment? And that's where the partner ecosystems are going to come into play. So this is where you're going to find the VMware solution, the Horizon Cloud on Azure, how that's going to extend those capabilities. And you as a customer not only will benefit from those capabilities, but also benefit from your licensing contract that you have with Microsoft. Next slide. So best in class virtual desktop and app experience that's delivered on Azure. So when we look at VMware's Horizon Cloud on Azure, so what we do is basically we extend those capabilities, right? So you get a base platform set of capabilities that WVD is going to offer you. Again, being able to access not only a virtualized app, but also a virtual desktop from any device, and to be able to experience not only Windows 10, you can experience Windows 7, as well as a Windows Server desktop in Azure, and leveraging the economics that the cloud brings to the table. Next. So one of the big selling features of Windows Virtual Desktop is Win10 Multisession, right? So WVD, Windows Virtual Desktop on Azure, is the only platform that delivers a multi-session Win10 experience. So what does that really mean, right? So this means that I can deliver multiple Windows 10 desktops on a single virtual machine, set of compute capabilities in Azure. And that really is where the economics come into play, right? So in a traditional sense, you have a desktop on a virtual machine in the background, whether it's in your data center or whether it's in the cloud. And then, the cost really begins to stack up. So for specific use cases, now you're able to take one to many Windows 10 and 10 test desktops and actually leverage that same infrastructure that is on the background. So another really good feature is around Windows 7 end of support. Several of our customers still have the legacy Windows 10 desktops that they're having to deal with and come up with a plan of how do they address this. And if you take those Windows 7 desktops and you put them into Windows Virtual Desktop, with our Horizon Cloud on Azure solution, you can now get up to 3 years of extended security updates. So instead of buying basically an insurance policy through Microsoft, you can leverage this capability and get those security updates without any additional cost other than the Azure cost. We also, with the partnership, with Microsoft and the Win10 Multisession, you also get enhanced user experience with Office 365 and Teams. We have those capabilities, and then really that enhanced cloud desktop adoption framework.
And is it worth mentioning around the 2008 piece as well?
Oh, that's a great point. Thanks, Scott. So absolutely. So Windows Server 2008 is also at the end of support. So if you're still struggling and battling with what do you do with that Windows Server 2008 environment, you can also look at this solution as a way to move that environment into WVD, into Horizon Cloud on Azure, and still get those up to 3 years of extended support and extended security updates absolutely free.
And we obviously from VMware, we have another solution called Azure VMware Services. And we can basically lift and shift those Win 2008 workloads into Azure if they're sitting on our hypervisor. Have a look on the Azure portal for a solution called Cloud Simple, basically we can actually lift and shift legacy workloads into Azure. As a customer, you'll benefit from these Azure license features depending on what licenses you have from Microsoft. So again, that's another solution from VMware.
Absolutely. And even though we are now taking multiple desktops and we're putting it on the same Azure infrastructure, still keep in mind, each desktop's data is still isolated from one another. So there's no data sharing, there's no data sprawl that will ever happen in this type of environment. So it's still the same scenario where one desktop on one virtual machine infrastructure in Azure, you still get that same isolation. Next slide. So many of our customers obviously are already eligible for WVD. So if you have one of these licenses, you are already eligible to access Windows 10 and Windows 7 through Windows Virtual Desktop, with this licensing model. So the best thing to do is, if you're not aware of whether or not you own Windows Virtual Desktop, is please check with your Microsoft account executive and ask them if you're eligible for this. But again, probably 80% of our customers, 80% of Microsoft's customers are already eligible for this capability. So again, there shouldn't be any net new licensing spend that you may need. In terms of the server licensing, if you have the RDS Cal licensing with software assurance, then you're eligible to access Windows Server 2012 R2 through Windows Virtual Desktop. So again, the best thing to do is check with your licensing person with Microsoft or internally to make sure that you qualify, and then you can actually leverage the capabilities.
Yeah, it's just worth adding. Obviously, the Bytes team can assist you with the Microsoft licensing. We were at Ignite last week in London. There was a lot of customers attending the booth, and many of them didn't actually know they had the rights to do this today. So it's worth checking what plans you're on. The Bytes team can help you with that. But our assumption is that most larger organizations who are consuming Office 365 will be able to deliver Windows Virtual Desktop today. So we're all set basically.
Next slide. So this really gives us a good view of a specific customer scenario where we have a customer that has been running Windows 10 single session on-prem. So basically they have a Windows 10 desktop on a smaller virtual machine that is given with relatively low utilization. So again, to be able to scale this out, every desktop that you're spinning up, then you're spinning up a virtual machine in the background. Again, low utilization, low optimization that's really in the environment. So what Windows 10 Multisession introduces now is I can take one to multiple Windows 10 desktops. Now I can actually run that environment on a larger virtual machine that gives me higher utilization and overall lower operational cost, right? So you can now be able to take that on-prem environment, get it into Azure, leveraging Windows Virtual Desktop capability with Horizon Cloud on Azure, and get this cost optimization within the environment. So when we look at the pure economic benefit from a per user per month cost, the numbers are pretty staggering, right? So we're looking at, in a traditional sense, you're around $40 for a Windows 10 single session type of an environment. And then when we move into a Windows 10 multi-session, we drastically reduce that cost down to roughly $7. So that gives you a net of 85% cost savings. So Windows 10 multi-session is probably not going to be for every use case scenarios, but when you look at your environment, it will be for specific use case scenarios, and you will be able to take advantage of the cost savings that this capability brings to the organization.
So when we look at the use cases, it's typically if you're trying to, you know, low utilization users, people that maybe only use certain applications once a month, timesheet systems. Users, you may have projects, for example, where you've got people coming in, you want to give them access to resources very quickly but securely. And then obviously, you know, call center type activities where you've got lots of people doing the same thing. Now, obviously, some of the caveats around the economic benefits, it all depends on the applications and the utilization model, but the absolute commercials are that it's much, much cheaper than it has been in the past. The barrier of entry into these types of environments has drastically come down. The other thing to mention is Microsoft are building out much better integration of their Teams, Office 365 to Windows Virtual Desktop. They intend to give you as good of, if not better experience virtually in the cloud, because it's a lot easier to control that. So, you know, moving forward, there's a lot of opportunity for users to move to cloud who traditionally wouldn't have been able to because of the costs. And we're seeing a lot of demand. We're seeing a lot of uptake around discussions around shared desktop because it drives the economics much more than traditional physical infrastructure.
So let's look at just a high-level architecture. So when we look at the architecture, you know, it's pretty simple, right? So you have specific services and capabilities that Microsoft is going to provide you as a customer in terms of a managed service, right? So the underlying infrastructure capability is all managed by Microsoft. It is all in Azure. And the components are the compute, storage, and networking. So all that's taken care of for you, right? The top level is going to be managed by Microsoft, right? So providing the web access capabilities to get to the desktop, get to the application, all the diagnostics, so being able to monitor, you know, the environment, manage the environment, accessing the environment, again, all taken care of on your behalf. Any load balancing, brokering, and management, again, this is all things that Microsoft is providing back to the customer as a pure managed service, or really, in essence, a PaaS-based service. So when you look at the middle, this is where you as the customer will come in, you know, right? You're going to manage your Azure subscription. So all of the desktops with Windows Virtual Desktop are all going to be spun up in your Azure subscription or your Azure tenant. So you have full control over the desktops, where the desktops are ran, which Azure region, etc. So you manage all that, and you manage which desktops get spun up. So again, from Windows 7, Windows 10, Windows 10 Multisession, the Windows Server environment, you're going to manage the golden image. You're going to manage those desktops capabilities, and again, you're going to manage your Azure environment. Microsoft gives you an easy way to connect back into your on-prem resources. And it also will integrate and utilize Active Directory. Most customers that are running Office 365, if not all, I think all customers running Office 365 are already integrated with Azure Active Directory for identity management. This service will integrate into that as well.
Okay, so we've established that Windows Virtual Desktop is a platform. So within that platform, you get a set of services. So we'd like to just take you through what's not included in that set of services and how VMware are partnering with Microsoft to give you a much more feature-rich solution that's GUI-driven, has automation, has analytics. So to that, basically, if anybody has looked at the product, today it's very script-based using PowerShell. Microsoft's intent will be to lift it into the Azure portal, but again, basic administration. If you look to drive this across multiple Azure regions, then multi-tenancy is difficult to do. You've only got a single choice of protocol. The automation around the user management, builds, Windows management, etc., is limited. There's limited analytics coming back from that end user experience perspective. The device support that you get, the product's only been out 4 months, again, is limited. And cross-cloud or hybrid environments, the solution is purely based on Azure. So this is where VMware is coming in to actually give you these more enterprise class features. So the sort of delineation between what you can get away with the native platform, and then when you're going to require enterprise capabilities, probably around 100, 150 user mark. You will spend more time and effort creating the scripts, keeping the scripts updated, than if you actually come in and layer our tool set on top. Plus, you'll be able to have a lot more security and higher user experience, basically. So VMware has had a product sitting on Azure natively for over 2 years, Horizon Cloud on Azure, built from the ground up to run on cloud, full multi-tenancy, available in all public Azure data centers, and comes with a host of capabilities that you don't necessarily get out of the box from Windows Virtual Desktop. So we are actually just extending this product to support Windows Virtual Desktop, and we'll be able to then integrate already existing technology with Windows Virtual Desktop and our Workspace ONE products as well. So we have, desktop and image management. Very soon, in the next couple of quarters, we will have single image management across all of the platforms we support. Our user environment technology integrates into FS Logic. We will have universal image management and universal global brokering for anybody who's got multiple geos they need to support. We have analytics both around the application, user, and security. We've just obviously bought Carbon Black. That technology will be getting built into the platform. And as it's a SaaS service, we provide updates on a quarterly basis. So that's all part of our existing solution. When we bring this all together with Azure, we can start to do some interesting things. So we have our Horizon control plane that runs across any Horizon product, so whether it's on-prem or cloud. We now have a single licensing model. So to consume this, you just need a Horizon Universal license. And that then allows you to go into a hybrid space where we can actually have a service running on-prem. It might be on Dell hardware sitting on-prem, and you have a burst capability to Azure. We can deliver that today. Or you may want to have 100% cloud strategy, and there's lots of customers doing that. Some of the value we're going to bring over the next coming quarters is really how to improve the user connections in a global service, and allowing you to have this hybrid approach, and the integration of some of the companies we've recently purchased, Avi Networks being a good one, effectively allowing us to have global GSLB, analytics and application security all wrapped into the service. Again, these are things that you won't get with the native Windows Virtual Desktop solution. So across all the sort of key touch points for the service, again, we have 15, 20 plus years of working with endpoint devices. Our client infrastructure has been tried and tested on multiple different hardware vendors, so we can offer a really broad range of device support and different protocols. We can offer different types of desktops depending on those users. And again, if you look at power management, so within the native Windows Virtual Desktop environment, it has very limited power management. So obviously one of the key ways to save money is to be able to automatically or automate the power off of the VMs. That's something we bring. If you look from a cloud management, cloud services perspective, we have a bunch of technology we can bring in to improve the image management. So effectively a single Win10 build could be published out into the cloud or run on-prem. We have app layering technologies, app volumes will be coming to this platform. Again, a way to encapsulate applications, reduce the complexity for doing upgrades. We have a dynamic environment manager, which is a technology that makes profile management much simpler and allows that user to move from different geos and resources and bring with them their personalization. We're spending a lot of time developing monitoring services and analytics. We have a number of data lakes that we'll be tapping into, automated updating, and an integration to our larger workplace platform, which is Workspace ONE. From a brokering perspective, how do we get the users into the service? We are integrating Avi, which is a leading GSLB solution, cloud-based solution, into our Horizon cloud solution. We have a unified console. So again, if you had multiple pods, on-prem and cloud, or even on different clouds, single management plane. That allows you to then have a much reduced operating model, simplify your management, and again, it gives you insight into your security. The other key thing is we only need a single license to run cross-cloud. We are absolutely working with Microsoft's FS Logic technology, and we can bring additional capability to Office 365, which we'll talk about. We're absolutely layering on our best of breed technology to what comes standard within the Microsoft stack, and we'll see further integration. There is a number of initiatives in flight around Microsoft making available APIs for us to leverage. Some of those agreements are exclusive. So again, we're leveraging our partnership via Dell into Microsoft. Other ecosystem partners do not have the same level of integration with the Microsoft piece. App volumes, again, allowing you to have a much cleaner way to manage your images and deliver your applications. So at a high level, these features allow you to scale the environment, allow you to run it more leanly with limited resources, higher levels of automation, and then from an end user experience, giving you a much simpler, much improved experience when you're accessing those cloud services. So, as Andy touched on earlier, very simple commercial model or ownership model. You ultimately have the licenses today if you're an E or an M or an F customer from Microsoft. All you have to do is then consume the Azure piece to deliver that service, and then on top you have the Horizon Universal License. And Bytes can absolutely help you scope and size these infrastructures and provide guidance around how, what's the best licensing model, how does that fit with my user strategy, and what type of delivery works best for me. But really simple commercial model there. And finally, to sort of bring this all together, so what's the greater value of VMware to Microsoft? Well, we have a whole host of technologies that, working with Microsoft, provide that end user or that administrator much better, much more feature-rich capability. So if we start on security and management, for example, we have technologies that already run on Azure, such as Avi Networks and NSX. NSX is a network virtualization technology. Avi provides us with effectively an F5 or a NetScaler replacement solution, all cloud hosted. We can bring Cloud Health, which is an assessment service, assessment tool to tell you how you're running your Azure service, where that can be optimized. We recently finished our purchase of Carbon Black, so that that technology will be becoming pervasive in our services. So again, the whole concept is to provide really intelligent driven security from the data center to that endpoint device, wherever that user is. So we have a host of security management tools that run on Azure. We can absolutely manage Win 10 environments through Workspace ONE. We can provide you with self-service and a whole host of features that make that management of Windows 10 at scale much simpler using true mobile management technology there. Then obviously we have our Windows Virtual Desktop solution. And then when we move to Azure VMware Solutions, this is where you can run native SDDC or hypervisor on Azure. So that allows an existing VMware SDDC ESX customer to effectively create a stretch cluster to Azure and move those workloads. So if you have legacy 2008 servers, for example, you could move them to Azure and you could benefit from the extended support. Likewise for Windows 7. So we're seeing a lot of larger customers looking at this as a way to mitigate risk in the short term and allow you to burn down any Azure credits, for example, and also take advantage of those licensing benefits. So Cloud Simple today is the solution on the marketplace. It's a first-party product from Microsoft. Therefore, it's a Microsoft product. There will be more VMware solutions coming this year, so more choice, more customer choice. If you need any further information, again, you can contact Bytes or look on the Azure marketplace. We can provide you with, DR burst capacity solutions. I'm working with many customers who would like a DR solution, can't afford it. Azure now gives you that capability. Another real key area is M&A. Obviously, Azure is globally available. If you have offices and data centers located in foreign countries, you could lift those up into Azure single service. So again, it gives you much more flexibility. And then finally, around our Office 365, we provide multi-tenancy, roles-based access to that native service. We can enhance security. We have DLP across any device for Office 365. So we can improve that end user experience on any device. So again, a whole host of different technologies that will augment with Microsoft to provide you with a best of breed solution. So what that means is basically we can improve this employee experience. We can give them access to things like make it simple, self-service, catalog-based to get your applications and services, minimize the use of passwords, minimize the use of the wrong type of form factor for applications. Really make that experience simple for those employees. We can deliver true modern management across Windows 10 and other operating systems. That allows you to provide, BYO access. We can manage the endpoint. We can manage the actual platform. We can manage the integration into those public catalogs, such as the Apple Store or Microsoft Store. We can absolutely do apps and infrastructure. That's our bread and butter. Again, all of this now possible on Azure. We're now pushing towards a zero trust security model. We can integrate into partners such as Okta and Ping. We can deliver virtualized networking right onto Azure. We can deliver true load balancing. We've got application delivery controllers now. We have the full works around how to improve your security, add analytics, and build out that zero trust security model. So that's bringing all these technologies together into you as a customer. So if you look across our portfolio, we can absolutely help you transition to Windows 10. And if you're on Windows 10, we can make that daily management less of a headache. We can add a selection of security enhancements to Office 365 to ensure that your data stays secure and your users have a really clean experience. And now with the Windows Virtual Desktop and our Azure VMware services, we can take your traditional workloads that were on-prem into the cloud and deliver it out on a global platform. So if you're interested in experiencing Windows Virtual Desktop in your environment, we as an organization, we can absolutely give you access to licensing. We also have a joint initiative with Microsoft. We're able to physically provide the Azure credits to do the trial if the environment is over 300 seats. Working with Bytes, Bytes can absolutely provide workshops, POCs and pilots to sort of guide you through this process. The real value around this is that is the assessments and understanding how you build that onboarding to cloud. And again, we have access through our partnership with Microsoft to actually get funding to offset deployment costs and project costs if we can demonstrate ROI of 10x. So again, we are just getting started with Microsoft. I really want to make this point. Our relationship in the last 12 months has exponentially increased and improved. We're teaming with Microsoft in accounts. Our execs are meeting on a regular basis. There is momentum building within VMware, Dell, and Microsoft. So there will be more initiatives coming this year. We're really excited about what's happening with Microsoft, and we can really drive value for you as a customer, which is the most important thing, to leverage existing installed license base with our technology. So if you're interested, you can get a free trial here. These slides will be shared. We have our tech preview that's happening now. Product will be live GA beginning of April. And we have more technical information if you want here. And if you want more just general information, just go to vmware.com. And I think now we'll hand it back to Amy and Peter if there's any questions.
That's brilliant. Thank you, guys. Okay, so now I'm going to open it up to Q&A. If anyone has any questions, please do pop that into the questions box, which is just at the right-hand side of your screen, and I'll answer those for you shortly. Okay, so there's one question here that says, how is this better than Windows Managed Desktop? What are the true costs of Windows Virtual Desktop versus a high-spec PC bought on capital and depreciated over 4 years?
Right, okay. So I think the biggest benefit of cloud is you can pay as you use it. Yeah, so you've got that device for 4 years and you basically depreciate over 4 years. You may only need that device for 6-8 months. Yeah, so this is the power of cloud. We basically build it and run it for that period of time. With Azure, there is built-in discounts. Again, this is where the Bytes team can come in and help you model this. If you make a commitment to Microsoft, for example, for a year, you're going to get 30% off that commitment. If it's 3 years, it's 50%. So you really have to look at what the run costs are for that device, including management, the depreciation, if it gets broken. All those sort of things need to be factored in, and then look at what you get from the cloud service. Typically, if we're using that shared model that Andy talked about, there could be some significant savings there. And again, but it all comes down to what does that user need that device for? And can they use, for example, a thin client to access that service? Do they need to be able to get it work from home? All these things. Now, the benefits of having something hosted in the cloud is security. So you can absolutely ensure that your your data stays secure in the cloud and it's not on a device that could be lost or stolen. So again, you know, there's pros and cons for each model, and the Bytes team can help you model that. Is Pete there?
Yeah, I'm here, Scott.
So I mean, Peter, could you just maybe explain to the guys what some of the assessment services you have to sort of help model that out for the question?
Yeah, I mean, there's a good comparison that can be done from both a Microsoft point of view, but also from an assessment point of view. So from a very high level, finger in the air perspective, Microsoft have got a configuration calculator that can give you this, I suppose, the depreciation value cost versus WVD from a higher level. But to really understand it, we'd have to do some kind of assessment to understand what those workloads look like and what it would equate to in WVD, because at the moment the specifications that Microsoft are touting around about a 20-to-1 ratio wouldn't always necessarily be achievable. So it would be necessary to really understand the workloads better, understand what the usage requirements are, and then we'd be able to do a true analysis of what those costs look like. I hope that answers the question. There is another question that's been asked. If there is a high-powered graphics VDI that's required, what does this cost look like? I suppose that's more a Azure question, really, to be honest. That it would be dependent on the size of the virtual machine that would be needed in Azure. Of course, the rich content delivery of VMware would be able to support most graphics workloads, but if it was higher powered 3D requirements, then yes, that would, you'd have to specify that as a virtual machine in Azure, and that would be a separate cost, but they're all on Azure's website.
Yeah, and we've got customers running that today. You know, we've got engineering students, you know, thousands of them using that in one instance. Obviously, if you're using high-powered graphics cards, they're very expensive cards to buy in the first place. So again, if you can schedule the power on-off piece, if you can, you know, have multiple users on those environments at the same time, that all reduces your cost footprint. And again, you don't necessarily have to buy that instance for the duration. You know, so if you, let's say if you're an architectural company, engineering, you might be doing a project. Your project might only be for 18 months. So at the end of that 18-month period, you just switch it off, and you haven't got, you know, 40 or 50 very expensive devices that you're now on depreciation for. So again, that, you know, there's a few things that need to be taken into consideration. But you can absolutely deliver intensive graphic workloads from the cloud now.
I would also, just to add, I would also, if you have a large project coming up, please reach out to your Bytes team, reach out to your Microsoft team and your VMware team, because we can work with you on the specific scenario to see what really makes sense for that scenario, because there's programs available in Microsoft that can drastically reduce some of the cost. So if you go out to the public calculator, you're going to get the public calculator price, but that may not be reflective of what programs that may be available to your organization.
Brilliant, thank you. Oh, so I just have one more question come in, 1 second. Okay, so another question here. If multiple displays are required, how many displays can be used?
So again, it depends on what's been asked there. We can support multi display sessions. So again, it will depend on the endpoint device and how we're connecting. So I believe up to 4 from a Horizon perspective. Pete, are you aware of any other limitations there? It's going to be, you're going to have to look at bandwidth going down to that device as well, and why they need multiple displays. If it's a trader, for example, there'll be other things you need to consider, like the latency of that network. Again, if you're doing high intensive graphics, you really need to have the application and any data close by to ensure you get a really good experience.
Okay, but just before we wrap up, there is another question, just again around Windows Managed Desktop versus Windows Virtual Desktop. Scott, do you have a view on that?
Yeah, so I think it's horses for courses, right? Having a device with you 24/7. There's lots of users need that type of need that model. If you are in a call center scenario, or you've got security issues, or you're using those applications infrequently, then it may make more sense to have that hosted in the cloud, because you can use low-cost devices. You can absolutely secure your data, flexibility. So you have to really look, I think, at what does that user need day to day to be effective, and what's the best way to deliver that. From Windows Virtual Desktop will absolutely give you a DR strategy out of the box. What happens, and another thing to think about is, if you're hit by WannaCry or any sort of virus, typically you have to go out and touch all those devices, patch them, and remediate them. Now, if you've got 10, that's easy. If you've got 10,000, that takes months. This is the whole sort of value of virtualization. You could literally spin those desktops up in the cloud almost immediately and scale out to what you need, and then retract. So there is absolutely a place for a PC Surface device, as is VDI. And the beauty now is, with what Microsoft are doing, you can now have both. Traditional VDI, there was quite a large barrier to entry, around 500 users or thereabouts. Now you could have literally 10 or 15 users. So I think, again, it really depends what that user's role, the mobility that user requires, and the access to applications to make those sort of decisions at a high level. Pete, I don't know if you've got anything you want to add there.
Not really, to be honest. I think again, if you want to, the best thing for us to really do is to sit down and go through this as a whether this is something that's fit for you, and a managed desktop might be the best way. It might be the equally the more secure and effective way of you deploying applications to your end user estate, but it's use case specific. So it's, we've really got to make sure that what it is you're trying to achieve is fit for purpose, and we can work with you on that basis.
Yep.
Okay. I'm just going to hand over to Amy now, who'll be able to wrap this up.
Brilliant, thank you, Pete, and thank you, Scott and Andy, for presenting today. So that's all the questions that we have been sent in. So thank you everyone for joining the webinar. I really hope you found it valuable. As mentioned at the beginning, I'll be sending you all a link to the recording tomorrow morning. and there's also a short feedback form at the end. So if you're interested in any of our assessments or workshops, or have any feedback for us, please do pop that in there and we will be in touch. Okay, so thanks again everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day today. Thank you.